missing someone.
The Echo Cast, Episode 6. I'm gonna call this one Delta Force, to commemorate all of the free advertising that Delta Airlines got this week from the Division community. So, as always, I'm going to start off with some updates about the stream. I do want to check. The first thing we'll talk about that's going on with the stream, the content, the things in general. Both of the Shade Agent figures apparently have been shipped. Again, I know that may not necessarily mean that they're actually coming. But I did correspond with both sellers, and what seemed to be an actual person did confirm to me that they have both been shipped. That's the good thing. The bad thing, they're both coming from Germany. So, be patient. I'm going to be super selfish. One of them is staying with me. But the other one will be given away. And I suspect it may rival my my Xbox giveaway with popularity. It will, be secluded to the Division community. But I suspect that's going to be a popular item that people want. So be on the lookout for that as soon as I get them. I think they're both being shipped DHL, so I have no idea how long they're going to take. I suspect they've strapped them to dolphins and are bringing them across the ocean. I'm not a scientist, but I believe that's how it works. But we'll see. The next update is I will be starting, hopefully next week, bring in, at least for a segment, probably the speculation part, bring in a guest on, maybe eventually doing like a co-host situation or like a rotating thing with the podcast, or maybe it's just me one week and then it's a set kind of rotation of people the weeks after that. I don't know, we'll see. The toughest part is going to be coordinating things and possibly recording that on the side. Not live, just because the logistics may be a little tougher, and getting things right may be a little bit harder. So we'll see. I'll update, as I assume any of you would expect, via the Twitters, and I'll let you know. So be on the lookout for that. I'm excited about it. I'm sure you guys are, to stop just hearing me drone on and on and on, like that lawnmower that you probably hear in the background. The location video, I literally have it mapped out. I have it pretty much scripted. It's just a matter of sitting down. The funny thing is, my goal with that video is to make it less than 10 minutes long, so it's watchable. Yet it's taken me a month to actually record the audio for it. So be patient. I'll get there eventually. We'll have a good time with it. Division shots, hashtag division shots, the thing that I basically started with this whole deal, has kind of come to an end, but not really. I've gone through, there's a couple spots in the DZ I still want to try to check out. Those were relatively challenging, as you would probably expect. There are a bunch of missions I still need to do. I tried to do the underground. It's just not, all the UI elements that don't go away, it's just not worth it. There's a couple cool things in there, and I may still get some shots of them, but for the most part, it's just, it's too cluttered, without being able to use the PC tools, which I may actually be able to try on my PC now, but we'll see. But for the most part, that's probably coming towards its end. There's a few spots I actually want to go back to and retake some shots with the 4K update, but again, we'll see. The other bit of news with Division shots is I'm going to need to find something other than Flickr to upload them to as like a hub, which is a bummer because I believe I crossed the 55,000 view mark on there not long ago. It doesn't, there's no income or anything associated with it. I just liked seeing that number. I thought it was really cool. They have been bought out by another company, and when I was looking at that company, the name of the company, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's really stupid, and I don't want, Flickr's, is what it is. It's known, but I don't know. We'll see. So, but more than likely, Division Shots will be finding a new home. That is a project I plan on keeping up with the sequel. Now, whether that begins in November or May or March or next November, who knows? Obviously, we'll find that out here in about a month and a half at E3. But just be on the lookout for that information if you have been following it. Intel Insights, I have recorded the final phone recording episodes. I have to fix a couple things, but those will get posted over the next 2 weeks, and then those will be done. As I have said previously, I do plan on bringing a new character in to do the echoes, to go around and record all the echoes and discuss them, because a lot of them are kind of interesting and worth chit-chatting about, as well as the situation reports, which are really similar to the phone recordings. Then the last bit of content update is a new emote. So if you're in chat right now on Twitch, or if you are in a stream sometime in the next week or so, you'll notice that if you're a sub, the emote is gone. It will be back. It will still be a Bond emote, but it's a cool new design with the Shade Eagle in the ring in the background, and then Bond. I will eventually get all 3 of my emotes redone, but I have 1 tier 2 person right now and 0 tier 3, which is perfectly fine. So the tier 1 was definitely the priority. It's been submitted, hopefully is approved within a couple days. Okay, so that's enough of me. Go figure. The state of the game recap. I was excited to be off work today to watch it, and it was about 3 minutes of information and about 5 minutes of community content, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. So the big news was global event blackout and the subsequent problems that have come along with that, primarily with the servers. Whether or not they're directly related, it's we don't know, and we won't, which is fine. They probably were in some capacity, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It was kind of an ongoing saga for a couple days. I know for me, I did get delta'd in Amherst once, in a decent number of hours of play. I didn't get hit too hard with it, but I saw people reporting much worse things. It seems like they've smoothed it out, and so you can get out there and start farming. Due to the issues for multiple days, I figured they would extend the event by a couple days. Instead, they just went off and extended it for a whole extra week. So if you're still seeking your striker, like I am, if you're still trying to finish a tactician build, like I am, or the Deadeye and D3, you have a whole nother week to do it. So what I highly suggest is, if you have those sets but there's other stuff you don't have yet, this next week would be a great time to get up 10,000 GE credits to save for the Onslaught global event. So that was the majority of the news I had there. They showed a video, the video that Equim and I did, and there's another one too. I can't remember who did it off the top of my head, but you can go check out the VOD on Twitch if you want to see the community stuff they did there. That's state of the game. That's my state of the game recap. I didn't notice anything big other than that. We will see. So next part here for the Division news. Blackout, global event blackout has been functional for a few days. It seems like it's going pretty well at this point. My impressions of it is it may be my favorite global event when it comes to the actual mechanic that it brings in. I actually hate the electric bullets in the underground, so I thought I would dislike it, but I've actually found that I like it a lot. I really enjoy the power increase and the shock effect. It makes survival significantly easier. So if you've struggled with survival or never really jumped into it, this isn't a bad time to get your feet wet. Yeah, it's fun. I haven't run many missions with the second and third tier of it. I typically don't really mess with those anyways. This one looks like it's not overly punishing, but we'll see. Just get your reclaimers ready. The global event onslaught will be next. I believe they're saying that will be at the end of May or in June, which I have a slight suspicion. I really hope they don't run it during E3 week, but you know, that is what it is. I guess I won't be able to complain, you know, but I may still find a way to. That one seems interesting with the changing ammo types, and then in the third tier, the changing weaknesses to ammo that the enemies have. It's a really a relatively complicated system that they're using for that one. I'm assuming it will work, but for me it's a matter of I don't really want to have to think that much when I'm doing it. So we'll see. We'll see what the enjoyment level of that one is. It could be the best one. The next topic, we haven't really gotten news about it, but I suspect we'll get it soon, is some explanation of what shields are. I'm seeing a decent amount of conversation in the community. I know this is what I'm doing for myself. I will warn people to not expect too much out of the actual mechanic of the shields program. While it would be super cool if they're like extra little missions or even like the Asher fight, my suspicion and my guess with shields is going to be a situation where it's basically like a weekly assignment. I'm really hoping it's not like a grindy kind of thing, or at least not too bad. And then I don't even know if we'll actually know what the rewards are going to be when we achieve them. We may get like a shield credit or something that we can use in the Division 2. I don't know. We have no idea, but we will see. And one last little bit of Division news I thought was cool. I saw that Tony Sturtzel posted that it looked like they were at a range day today, shooting some guns. It looked like he was firing what we know as a police M4. It was just a basic M4 AR-15, probably more accurately. And so that's cool. So at least we know they're out there doing some stuff, even though they could have just been there for fun. Who knows? There's your Division news. How about that? The next little piece here is a community news portion. The Goose cosplay, if I could say his actual name correctly, I'm gonna go with Denis Gusev. I am positive that's wrong, but I highly suggest checking him out. On Twitter, he's at Goose Cosplay 1. I would check his stuff out. They're getting to the point where they're getting like, they're like recreating stuff extremely closely from the actual game. I'm not giant into cosplay stuff, but between him and Splinter Shield and Mav and some other people, Eidolon Fox, there's some pretty cool stuff going on, and I feel like these guys are a little bit newer on the market here, so make sure you check them out. And then with the Clancy Elites that Matt Goes Buck and or Taylor are part of, they're doing their Division Build Wednesdays still, but I know I've been seeing for a little bit of talk of how I think everyone's kind of sick of just seeing 6-piece striker with 9k stamina on there. And I saw some discussion today, or yesterday, which I agree with. You know, let's maybe get creative. It may not even be builds that you necessarily are using because everyone's using the meta builds, but you know, get crazy with some ninja builds again, some hexo builds, or I don't know, try it out, see what you can do. I haven't really seen anyone fool around with the ninja bag with the new classy gear. Obviously it's not gonna beat the meta, but you can make some crazy powerful versions of some of those really good ninja builds. I highly suggest maybe fooling around with that, and make sure you check out the @Clancy Elites Twitter on Wednesdays and in general to submit some of those things on there. Make a sniper build. Make a melee build for all I care. I don't know. But especially with these global events, show off your builds that you're using just for these events. Maybe make something creative, something a little different. It'd be fun to kind of mess around with that stuff instead of people just submitting the same stuff to them every week. So there's my plug for that. That's all I have for community news. I have what's probably going to be a kind of a shorter speculation piece this time than normal. I kind of wanted to chat relatively quickly about gear sets and loadouts, and kind of what I think that they may or may not do with the sequel, or what I hope they do is maybe the more accurate statement. I think something that we have to remember, I've been saying it for a while, is that I really think people need to think big. I still see, and I understand why, but there's still so much talk of, I think people think that the Division 2 is going to be like, copy the Division 1 code and paste it and then modify some stuff. That's not really what I'm expecting. I'm expecting, probably some shared assets, I've said it for a while, I'm expecting the essence of Division 1 and what's essentially a new game. I'm expecting significant changes in the actual gameplay, the loot, and stuff like that. And so it's been an ongoing conversation for quite a while before they even announced Division 2, was the gear sets, and like, did they help or hurt the game in the long run? I think the regular gear sets were okay. There's a part of me that still wishes that we would have never gotten them and instead had these like exotic pieces, maybe exotic pieces that were a hair more useful than just the ninja bag and the Barrett's vest. Skull MC gloves have had their time with the Hexo builds. I for a while the knee pads were good because people cheesed them in PvP, especially with the instant explosion. The Bliss holster, I don't know, and the Pharaoh's mask, I can't think of a time that either one of those were commonly used. I feel like 2+ years down the line, the high-end gear could have been viable without gear sets. It could have been fun and exciting if all of the talents mattered on them, the unique traits on each one. Because right now, if you look at it, I'd be curious to look at a chart, but I suspect that roughly 50% of the talents on the high-end gear aren't useful. As far as I can remember at this point, nothing on the holster's useful, or at least not in the meta. I'm sure that some people still use it with the healing and the increased bringing back your health and stuff. I feel like the backpack especially still does have some utility. The gloves savage gloves, I guess, to a point. Again, when you bring up the meta stuff, no one's running savage gloves over, the 6-piece striker, unless they are. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know. The gear set / high-end gear situation, taken from my own advice, I need to consider that, what if we don't even have a high-end gear or gear set? Maybe it's going to be a whole new system in the sequel. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But from what we know, I suspect it will carry over some ideas. And for me personally, I kind of hope we don't have gear sets. And if we do, I hope they're much smaller gear sets. I hope, we don't have the classified again. Uber Timmy had a really good kind of a question post of, did Classy make things better or worse? I'm paraphrasing, but that was the general idea. And my opinion was, well, I feel like the Classy gear definitely gave us that power fantasy that some people felt we didn't have in this game. At the same time, the way it was implemented maybe wasn't ideal and kind of killed some diversity. And I don't even want to say kind of. I think most people would agree that the time of Hexo builds and Ninja Bike builds was probably the most diverse this game has ever been when it comes to gear. Specifically in PvP. I would say that period was when I was the most active in PvP, playing with What Plays, Matt Goes Buck, Armor for Core. A lot of those guys, I feel like that's when I jumped into PvP the most, and I really enjoyed it. I attempted it a bit with the meta sets before I deleted all of mine. And it just, I get it. I've been one that's kind of, I've kind of, been a bit of a shill to a point of thinking that maybe people need to chill a little bit, but that doesn't mean I don't get it. I see that Predmark is lame because it's just 10 shots and they can tick you to death, and it's really hard to counter it to the point where it's borderline impossible. Nomad is crazy frustrating if you're facing 4 rogues all running Nomad and they each proc their Nomad 4 times. Striker is, having that much damage and health in one build is in sustain. That's tough, man. That it reminds me of, I believe it was 1.4, 1.5, when PvP it was so with armor, when you could roll armor, and it was so tanky that it literally turned into people just unloading 3 or 4 or 5 mags into each other and still not dying, or it wasn't like satisfying gameplay. So like with all of that, I would prefer to see a system that would be more along the lines of sticking with just high-end gear, but maybe a whole bunch of variety of high-end gear, with all useful talents that are updated as the game goes on, if they become obsolete. Obviously that's easier said than done. It's not as simple as just, I understand development time. I've had a lot of these conversations where I understand why that maybe wasn't realistic in this game, with the other things that were being dealt with when this came out. But I really hope that there's a plan for the sequel to keep gear relevant, because there's so much irrelevant gear now that's been replaced, but it's been replaced by something that I would argue is maybe worse. But I don't know, we'll see. And then the second little part to that topic is the loadout system. It's something that I don't think anyone would say they don't want loadouts anymore. If anything, I think most people would say they want more. But what I will say about that is that currently, to a small degree, but especially in previous patches since the loadouts came out, I'm hoping that's a completely revamped system, because when it comes to especially a lot of exploits and stuff like that, it seems like the loadouts had some significant flaw in their system or in their implementation that has caused a lot of headaches, especially for the devs and the CMs, but for the player base as well, obviously. I know I see things pop up here and there that people are saying there's still issues with it. It doesn't seem like it's as widespread as it once was, but it seems like it's maybe become one of those issues where it's band-aided as well as it can be, but it may be one of those things that just its core design makes it tough to truly fix, like a few other things in the game, which when they revealed Division 2, or when they talked about it, they kind of made a point of saying something to the point of, that the fresh start is kind of necessary because of some of the issues in the game. So that's my little spiel on that. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about gear and gear sets. That's the thing I would really like to talk about with a guest, someone maybe who's more PvP based, and kind of their outlook on it. I will make it very clear my opinion on the whole PvP should have operators gear kind of thing, where it's like Wildlands or Siege, where you pick an operator with set stuff. I've said it before, I'll say it again. That's a thing where I fully understand that would make it really easy to balance PvP, but that just wouldn't make sense to me with this game. Like, I get the strengths of it, but you'll probably never see me say, yes, I would like to see that, because to me that just turns into, I'll just go play Wildlands or Siege if I want to do that. But maybe there's a way to implement that system I'm not thinking of. I'm being small-minded. I'm being hard-headed about it. I'm happy to be convinced, so maybe that's an opportunity for a guest. So there's my speculation piece. The short and sweet, quote-unquote. Second to last part here, I was going to talk about just a little bit of gaming news I saw this week, and things I'm excited myself. The first thing being the Destiny 2 Warmind release that's coming out in May. So for me personally, I've always been kind of a hater on some of the cosmetics and stuff in Destiny. It's just kind of cartoony and kind of goofy. When I saw the armor that you're going to be able to get in that expansion, I was pretty impressed. It looks pretty damn cool. It looks a little less cartoony. Beyond that, anyone who is listening right now who plays Destiny 2 is like, Vaughn, no, don't focus on that. I get it. I understand. I'm actually considering finally finishing that out and trying to get to a point where I can participate in some of this stuff, because I am curious, and it can't hurt for me to be a little more educated on it. But from the people I've talked to who are big Destiny 2 fans, it seems like this is a small step in the right direction. And then with some of the stuff that came out about updates in September and stuff like that, you know, it looks like this game's heading in the right direction. I hope that they back up what they're saying, and I hope that game becomes as good as it can be before they release a third one, because, you know, despite my personal opinions on that game, there's still a lot of people I really like who are really disappointed in what happened with that game, and that really sucks, because that did happen to us as a community with The Division in some ways, and it could happen again. Do I think it's going to? Well, no, I don't, but could it? Sure. And the last thing I want is to turn around, you know, when Division 2 comes out and feel the same way they did. I have faith that that's not going to happen, because so many of the devs are fans of Destiny 2, and I trust that they're smart people and they're agile people, and they can look at those mistakes and not make them. But at the end of the day, I've said it about sports, I've said it about video games, I've said it about people. The more good games, the more good teams, the more good people you have out there, the better. It increases, you know, it increases everyone's happiness. It makes everyone better. So the better Destiny 2 gets, the better it's going to make Division 2, as well as all the other games that you probably play. The better Warframe gets, the more it pushes every other competitor to be better and to do better. So I have hope. I have hope for the people who I know love that game, and we'll see. The other update is State of Decay 2 comes out May 22nd. I will be playing that. I believe it's going to be crossplay compatible, so I can play it on my Xbox or PC. I think my PC should be able to handle it, but if not, we'll throw it on the box and we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited to play that. I will be streaming that. I really like the first one despite its flaws, and it looks like they did what they needed to do with this one to make it better. It might still be flawed. I'm not going to say it's going to be a perfect game, but it looks like they've improved a lot of things that needed to be improved. God of War, it's really good, from what I hear. Detroit Become Human had a PS4 demo. Obviously, I haven't played it, don't have a PS4. I read a bunch of reviews on it, though, because I was a little miffed that it wasn't on Xbox. I didn't realize that. But after reading the reviews, I didn't realize it was made by the same guy, I believe, as Heavy Rain, which is a game I played back in the day. I'm a little less miffed about it now. Those games are cool. They're really neat. I thought this was going to be some like RPG, like this cyberpunk game that's coming out from the Witcher developers. I thought that initial trailer that had no gameplay, like that's what I thought was happening. Then I realized it's like one of these Heavy Rain games. Still really cool, but maybe not quite the disappointment that I was worried about before. But I do hear really good things. I know Uber Timmy was playing it. I read a bunch of reviews from other people. I highly suggest checking it out. And if you have a PS4, I believe it's probably still available. But either way, I would keep an eye on that. And the last little bit of news I kind of want to talk about is I saw an article today when I was searching for some news to talk about that Radical Heights game has lost 82% of its player base. So that's one of those games that it definitely had that feel of a developer. I believe it was Lawbreakers. It's the same people who made that, and that was kind of a similar failure in that way. There were a lot of streamers streaming that game, and it looked like they were like trying to have fun, but you could just kind of tell they weren't. I didn't mind the concept of it. It looked like it had some really cool ideas to separate itself out from like PUBG and Fortnite. But the level that games are gonna have to meet for BR moving forward, especially after Fortnite, but after PUBG, as it improves as well, the level is so high, that the standard is so high right now to knock them off, to get ahead of either one of them. Not to say it can't happen. It seems to be kind of a cycle thing where they will cycle out and something else may take over. I wouldn't have guessed Fortnite would ever reach its current height, you know. But they're setting the bar so high that, you know, when you watched Radical Heights being played, you could tell it was like, oh, that's kind of neat, but it's not the game. Like, it's not going to get there. And every one of these companies, EA, even Activision, they're all getting into it now. You can tell, you know, they're all racing to try to get there before this whole thing peaks out and drops off, because it's going to. This battle royale thing has lasted longer than I honestly expected, but it's not going to last forever. So I'm kind of curious to see if anything does come out that can topple the current contenders, and then to see how long the fad, if that's what it is, continues. So there's my gaming news for the week. If there's anything I missed, feel free to remind me. I'll try to get it in next week. For the wrap up this week, I did want to say thank you to anyone who's listening currently, anyone who listens to the podcast or watches on YouTube. Thank you guys very much for all the birthday love. As of the recording of this, Thursday the 26th of April, it is my birthday. I turned 30 today. The outpouring of love on Twitter and in the streams, I did a couple streams because I took a couple days off here, has been really, really kind and really, really cool. I believe it's actually outnumbered. It's always the Facebook is always the one that everyone, you know, they always get all their messages on there. I believe the Twitter, all the Twitter friends have actually beaten out the people I actually know. So congratulations on that, and thank you again. That's all I really have for you this time. 6 episodes in, I'm still really enjoying doing this. I suspect as time goes on, I'm going to have even more to talk about. Like I said before, I'd like to start bringing some guests in, maybe even do a co-host at some point. This is kind of an evolving thing. I'm trying to stay somewhat agile, trying to get feedback from people on stuff. You know, I do want to make this interesting thing to listen to. I know I've really, really enjoyed listening to like the Bombshell Jackets and Sit Rep while I'm at work. It kind of distracts me from the regular pop music radio that's always playing in my office. So if I can help be yet another thing that to do that for other people, I want to. And if there's ways I can make that better, I'm always happy to hear it. With that said, that's all I've got. This is Bond Diesel. That was the EchoCast, episode 6, Delta Force, and I will see you next time.